Welcome to another week, another show of Hawkeyed with me, Dave OHara. There they are. They're back, as the expression goes. Craig and Stacy Schroeder, Fight with Flash Foundation via Facebook or fightwithflash.org. Craig, Stacy, what a summer it's been. You both look tanned and rested. Everything good with you two?
Yes.
Yeah,
Awesome.
Great summer.
Good stuff. Same here. Very busy. But week two, we were back with somebody you both know very well in the family. Craig, you and I both from the Postville area. I know, Stace, you're from Dubuque, but you know the Ashes very well. So Austin Ash joined us last week. That was fun. Mm-hmm. But now to some real stuff. All right, Stacy, we're going to talk to you in just a little bit and talk about what's available online for the viewers to order items from fightwithflash.org. But Craig, golf tourney coming up on, can it be? We're talking almost, less than a month, because we're recording, a little over a month, because we're recording this on Tuesday afternoon, August 22nd, appropriately enough, 22, Flash's number. And gosh, he would have been he turned 23 on August 13th.
Yep.
Does not seem that long, so now it's been over 6 years that Flash has passed away, and you two are doing great work with the organization and approaching that seven-figure, but high into the six figures you've raised in all that time. So great work. But Craig, let's talk about the golf tourney coming up on September 23rd. Does that seem possible?
It's crazy, but it's very, very exciting for us. We have a full field. In fact, it filled up after the first week of sending it out. So 144 golfers, and still looking for a few sponsorships for holes, which was always appreciative to be able to go, because that goes right down to the bottom line for us. Mm-hmm. But exciting enough, we've got two teams from the AYA from the hospital, so we've got some doctors and pharmacists, and we got some patients, and we're going to be working on the patient, the flyer that we do that has, I think, 9 different patients in it, share their stories, but the head doctor of the AYA program will be there golfing this year. It's so exciting because the last few years, because of COVID, nobody could come. Patients could come if they wanted to take the risk, but it was not hospital approved. But this year, there's going to be some hospital staff and people there, and Dr. Dickens will actually say a few words as well about the program and kind of really what our what our money goes to help.
Well, obviously the University of Iowa Stead Family Children's Hospital, but what great work, as you mentioned, the AYA. So Stacy, Craig, thank you so much for that. And online, all the details are there. Their social media as well. But Stacy, speaking of online and social media, this isn't available yet, but look at that beautiful necklace Stacy has on with the lightning bolt, Fight with Flash. But many other items like Craig's wonderful shirt there. You see the Fight with Flash logo on his sleeve, but a lot of cool stuff. Talk about that for us a little bit, if you would, please, Stace.
Yeah, and especially even nice when we get closer to our golf outing. So we have a lot of stuff. We have new orders now. So we got blankets, really cool. We're going to have some really cool blankets, sweatshirts, the Win the Day stuff, T-shirts, always hats. We got it all. So
stadium blankets we're going to need. I know in August we don't think that, but get ready, folks. Some of those cool nights. You guys know, being out at track meets, soccer, football, we're ready for it.
Yes.
Great seeing you both again. Thanks so much. Continued great work. We've got a clean bill of health on Dick Vitale, by the way. By the way, how cool is that?
Yeah.
Cancer-free. So we'll be catching up with more information on that. Of course, folks, as you know, the Fight with Flash Foundation, very close to the McCaffreys and Coaches versus Cancer, and the Jimmy V Foundation and Dick Vitale and ESPN. So Craig, Stacy, as always, what a shot in the arm. Great to see you again. We're back. See you next week.
All right.
Absolutely.
See you next week.
Sounds like a plan. Thanks to Craig and Stacy. Fight with Flash Foundation via Facebook or fightwithflash.org. I'm Dave OHara. We'll be back with more Hawkeye, and James Morris, former Hawkeye linebacker, going to do it all over again with us this year, breaking down the defense this year, and then this week and next week, James Vandenberg going to be breaking down the Hawkeye offense. So we're getting ready for kickoff, folks. So back with more in just a few moments. Welcome back to Hawkeyed with me, Dave OHara. There he is, our buddy James Morris, back for another year. He liked it so much, he thought, why not? James, it goes without saying, but I'm going to say it anyway. Great to see you again. Thanks for joining us. How are you, your wife, and your daughter doing?
We're all doing great, Dave, so thank you for asking. It's good to see you again, and I am chomping at the bit for football season to get started, so good to be back on.
Yeah, you, me, and everybody else. Again, you see all of James's information at the bottom of the screen. Former Hawkeye linebacking great, former the Gatorade Player of the Year award out of high school out of Solon, Iowa. James, we're going to talk one day about your offensive your offensive skills, your prowess on the offensive side of the ball. Running back, you're still in the top 10 in the state of Iowa of career rushing yards, touchdowns. but you went to Iowa, played linebacker, so I'm going to pose a couple of questions for you. No wonder you do so well when you and I and James Vandenberg talk about offense. But we are going to be talking offense with James Vandenberg next week. But James Morris, I wanted to ask you. So Jack Campbell comes in at Iowa, and he kind of under the radar and does very well, works his way up. Well, now the covers are off. He is preseason All-America along with defensive back Riley Moss, two Iowa kids. Moss out of the Des Moines area, and of course Waterloo, Cedar Falls area with Jack Campbell. But Jack comes in undercover. Nobody really kind of knows who he is. Like you as a freshman, sets the world on fire. The Big Ten world for sure. You're a former academic All-Big Ten, Super Bowl champion with the New England Patriots. But let's talk about Jack Campbell's metamorphosis and rise, and now he's on everybody's radar, and he's the guy to block and stop on defense, and he's on the Butkus Award list preseason. All these accolades. So take us through that as a former great linebacker yourself at the University of Iowa, Mike, middle linebacker. What's that progression like? You got to know what's going on. And Phil Parker, has a great defense in your case. Norm Parker to Phil Parker, but. What's all that like, James? Please.
Unfortunately, other than he and I wearing the black and gold, that's about where the comparisons end. He's a little bit better player than I was coming out. So I'm just really excited for him and to see the way he's kind of grown as a player over the years and now really developing into a leader. So I've got high expectations for him. He's been in the program a while now, and he should be playing his best football. So I'm excited to watch him, and I think the rest of Hawkeye Nation should be. But in terms of what he's thinking about, boy, again, I can't speak to what's going through his head. What I can say is that the coaches and the staff in that program, they give you enough responsibility and they ask enough of you in the off season and certainly during the season to keep you busy. And I'd like to think to keep from your ego or anybody doing too much forward thinking. So I'm really not too worried about that. Like I said, just excited to get a chance to watch him play this fall.
It's interesting that you bring that up with distractions, and we know with the NIL and all the consortiums brought together with that. And, Riley Moss has spoken a little bit about that, as has Spencer Petras. A lot of the players, Sam Laporta, everything tight end coming into this season, and tight end university continuing with that tradition, James. But, most of these guys have made it a charitable endeavor. But I think it's fantastic, like you mentioned, during Kirk Ferentz's years or even the Hayden Fry years, the distractions seem to be blocked out, if you will. And you know what that's like. James Vandenberg and I have talked about that as well, where you're getting on the field and you're focused. And I got to believe, and you and James have both told me on the air and off the air, James Vandenberg and you have both told me, it drives you crazy in the summer getting ready. It's like, you go to class all the time, and now it's test day, is game day. At this point, these guys got to be ready for the foot to meet the ball next Saturday and play kickoff at Kinnick. They've got to be more than ready, I got to believe.
They're definitely going to be eager, and emotionally they're going to want to get out there. The question is, are they prepared? Are they prepared for the situations that are hard to duplicate in practice? Things like managing the game, making sure you're not jumping offside, when you hear a hard count from the opposing quarterback that you've never heard before, or when you've got an official on 3rd and long and they're going to be throwing the ball downfield, do you have the poise to not, commit a pass interference or not commit a holding on a successful running play or things like that. And those things are hard to tease out in practice. And so it takes a smart, mature team to be prepared. They'll certainly be eager and emotionally ready to go. But I definitely like to see them be prepared. And they've got a week to do it. I think everybody is hopefully penciling success against their opener. But I would anticipate Iowa State's definitely going to be ready to go week 2.
Oh, absolutely. And, I'm glad you brought that up when you talk about leadership and our guys ready, because even if the coaches aren't focused, they're getting these guys focused. The leaders like Campbell and Moss on the defense and Petras and Laporta on the offense. That's one thing I love hearing you and James Vandenberg talk about. Coaches know that eventually they've got to put it off to the leaders and the team leaders like yourself, like James Vandenberg on the offense and defense, and even as the whole team. That's what the veterans are there for, I got to believe, right? To put a boot up some guy's side of his head and say, hey, let's get back to it. Or if they need readjusting, I got to believe that's more handled on the player level than the coaching level.
That's the number one sign of a healthy team is if guys can police each other and it doesn't have to come from coaches. And my experience in the NFL was on some really good teams, Super Bowl champion team my first year, and then my second year, a bad team. And so being able to say, when you're mid-year and the captains start calling players only meetings, the season's already over because there just is no way to save it. And so that type of culture and that type of sort of player leadership, you really want to develop that the 3 years leading up to those guys being seniors and then in the off season and through training camp. And so hopefully we have it. But it's one of those things that you really don't know if you have it until you get into those hairy situations, down 2 scores in the fourth quarter or overtime, or you commit a cardinal sin, in the middle of the fourth quarter to let them back in. I mean, all those things that will play out over time, but you certainly hope you have that because if it's only coming from the coaches, then buckle up. It's going to be a long year.
Let's do this. Let's run to a quick break. When we come back, we'll talk more Hawkeye football. Get you ready for the Hawkeye regular season to start next Saturday at Kennington Stadium. And again, as James mentioned, week 2, I don't want to overlook week 1, but week 2 against the Cyclones. So we're going to talk a lot of things going on in and around college football. I'm curious on James Morris's thoughts on the state of football as well. So we'll be back with more Hawkeye with me, Dave OHara, and James Morris, a former Hawkeye linebacking great and Super Bowl champion, as he and I both mentioned, with the New England Patriots. So we'll be back with more Hawkeye in just a few moments.
Hi, I'm Joel from Tice Chevrolet. We've lived through some very interesting times the last few months. Ensuring everyone's safety is more important than ever. That is why we're participating in the Chevy Clean program. At your request, we will pick up your vehicle, service it, and return it after we've cleaned it using the current CDC guidelines. This is just another way to work towards exceeding your expectations. So give us a call and let us show you what it means to be part of the Tice Automotive family.
To make the Mershman Seeds delivery experience even better this year, Mershman Seeds is offering you a brand new Apple app called Mershman Delivers. It will give you the estimated time of delivery down to the second and updates you as our truck makes its way to your dealership. Mershman Delivers will provide you the answer to the number one question we get when it comes to delivery. When exactly will the Mershman truck be here? Available on the Apple App Store. Download Mershman Delivers today.
Welcome back to Hawkeye with me, Dave OHara. You can see our buddy James Morris stayed around for another segment and greatly appreciate that. Former Hawkeye linebacking great, former Super Bowl champion with the New England Patriots, but James's time at the University of Iowa, even better for him and his family. He's an Iowa City area kid from Solon, former player of the year, Gatorade Mr. Football in Iowa, his senior in high school. James, I must know your thoughts, and I say must because, like you said, you're more than ready for the season to begin, as am I, as are all the viewers. What are your thoughts about all this crazy money besides NIL, the TV, the network deal between the Big Ten, we got ESPN, and all these things coming up? What are your thoughts on the money now coming in and changing networks? The Pac-12 is now invading the Big Ten with USC and UCLA next year. What are your thoughts on all this?
It boggles the mind. And it's just wild to think about how different college sports really is, probably from the 70s and 80s and then into the cable TV area of the 90s. And that snowball has just continued to gather momentum. And then the NIL ruling, and now you're looking at conference consolidation. I mean, what it's even going to look like 10 years from now, I truly think it's going to be totally different than what it is right now. In terms of the actual dollar figures, and I think there are a lot of people that don't like it, but to me, at the end of the day, it's the numerical representation of how much people like the sport and how much people love what the coaches and the players are doing. And if they didn't, the dollars wouldn't be there to support it. Now, how it gets divvied up, that's a much longer conversation than you and I have to work through here. But it truly does boggle the mind, and I'm excited, but also cautious about where things will go over the next 10 years.
James Morris, thanks so much. Say hello again to your wife and daughter for us. Glad everything's going well with you. Staying busy, working with Principal Financial. He's in the financial industry, doing very well. I always appreciate having James on. He's going to be on throughout the season, just like he was last year. So looking forward to it then. James, thanks again, my friend. We'll talk to you soon.
Thanks, Dave. Pleasure. Go Hawks.
Yeah, go Hawks indeed. For James Morris, I'm Dave OHara. We'll be back with more to close out the show with the Des Moines Register and USA Today. Iowa Hawkeye beat writer Kenny Smith, Kennington Smith III. So we'll be back with more to close out the show in just a few moments.
Hi, I'm Joel from Tice Automotive family. We are living through some of the most interesting and challenging times many of us have ever seen. Knowing who you can rely on is more important than ever. Many of us turn to our families to get us through, and the same holds true here. From our fair, upfront pricing to exceptional service after the sale, we truly want to exceed your expectations. So give us a call or stop by and let us show you what it means to be part of the Tice Automotive family.
When you're a farmer, there's a lot of things you can't control, but there is a way to give your soybeans an early advantage. Mershman Seeds soybean seed treatment featuring Turpidity ST. An independent analysis has proven faster and more even emergence every time. Just look at the Mershman difference. Give your crop the boost it needs for a uniform stand. For the best yields, grow with us. Mershman Seeds.
Welcome back to Hawkeyed with me, Dave OHara. You can see our buddy Kenny Smith, Kennington Smith III from the Des Moines Register and USA Today, the Iowa Hawkeye beat writer. Most favorite name by Paul Feinbaum from the SEC network on ESPN. And I know this is the Big Ten, but so yeah, you've got that going for you at least.
Yeah.
So Kenny, how you doing? Good to see you again. How's your summer been?
It's been great. It's been really busy with basketball, football, just everything, NIL, and the Big Ten media rights deal, everything that's surrounding the conference right now. There really weren't too many off days, but it was great, and I'm just looking forward to locking in for the season and starting my second year.
Amen. And thanks for being here. As you've seen Kenny on here before a couple of times. So let's do this. We'll talk about your Atlanta Braves another time, your Georgia Bulldogs another time. But Kenny, there is so much going on in and around the Big Ten. And you and I talked off the air, so let's bring it on the air. Kevin Warren, you talk about a metamorphosis. In the previous two segments, we talked the Hawkeyes defense, and James Morris did a great job of that, former Hawkeye linebacker with Riley Moss and Jack Campbell. You and I are going to talk some quarterback here in just a little bit, but let's talk the state of the Big Ten first with that huge $7 billion TV contract deal, UCLA, USC coming into the Big Ten next year. Kevin Warren was almost a pariah a year and a half ago, came off of COVID, and he mishandled that. He took all types of criticism for that. You talk about a guy who's gone from zero to hero. Let's you and I discuss that a little bit.
Yeah, his transformation over the last year has been nothing short of remarkable. Going back to your point, last year at Big Ten Media Day, it felt like the temperature at his podium was like 500 degrees. Every question was about what's the future of the Big Ten and how are you going to lead the Big Ten, and the questions about COVID and how he mismanaged that and those things. There were people that were questioning if Kevin Warren was the right man to lead the Big Ten into the future. And you look at a year later with adding USC and UCLA, which was a huge power move in the college landscape. I think that there hasn't been enough conversation about how significant it is that you get two schools that have carried the water for their conference for almost 100 years, and they're two of the most recognizable brands in college athletics to join your conference, and then you couple that with the $7 billion deal that didn't even include USC and UCLA. So it was really kind of like a 1-2 with those additions and the media rights deal. And I think that it positions the Big Ten so well to step into the next phase of college athletics. When you think about adding USC and UCLA, the Big Ten is the only Power 5 conference that can say that they span coast to coast from LA to New Jersey with large real estate in the Midwest, and they're going to be on 3 prominent channels every single Saturday with Fox, CBS, and NBC every single Saturday. So they have an opportunity to advance their brand nationally. I think every school in the Big Ten has an opportunity to advance their brand as well. And if you're one of the powers that be in the Big Ten, then you're kind of looking at Kevin Warren almost like a golden child now, which if you would have told us this a year ago, that this is the conversation that we'd be having today, I don't think that we could have pictured the pathway to get there.
Correct.
But that's just the crazy part of college athletics.
You think about it, like you said, coast to coast, northeast, on the East Coast, Rutgers, Maryland, and then you go southwest, LA. You get the 3 biggest media markets in New York, LA, and Chicago. The Big Ten is based in Chicago. Everything happens postseason in basketball in Indianapolis. They've got the market pretty well cornered in all these hotbed places. So let's you and I do this. You and your cohort, Chad Lysko, for the Register and USA Today, do a great job covering the Hawkeyes, hawkcentral.com. All of Kenny's information you see at the bottom of the screen on social media. You two posed some great questions, or Chad made a statement and then you posed the question back to him going, QB for the future and now. So let's talk about that a little bit. We talked defense earlier on the show today. Let's talk some offense.
Right, yeah, I think that the point that I was trying to convey is when you look at Iowa's team, you know they're going to have an elite defense. You know the special teams, while it has question marks, you expect it to be very good under LeVar Woods. The most prominent question is, will the offense and specifically quarterback play be good enough to take Iowa where they want to go? So their biggest question mark right now is the quarterback of the present, whether that's going to be Petrus or Padilla. But looking ahead to future teams, you don't expect Iowa's defense to fall off. You expect their special teams to remain the same high level as well. So the question going into the future is going to be, is the quarterback play going to improve? And that's just been a talking point for, I feel like, over the last few years. And I know Chad did a piece on completion percentage, which has been a statistic that has not been very kind to Iowa in the last several years. I think that there's going to be several guys in that room with decisions to make at the end of this year, depending on how it all plays out. So it'll be interesting to watch, but I feel like that's the number one question mark on the team.
So, Kenny, when you talk about that, like you said, that's the biggest question mark on a team and has been for a number of years. I would go back to say even you can go Chuck Long, Ricky Stanzi, James Vandenberg. You've had guys in place, C.J. Beathard. We had the whole Jake Rudock-Beathard thing back in the day. Nate Stanley obviously was locked in, but Drew Tate, who's been on this show before. But, yeah, that has been the ever-present question. And, next year we're going to be talking about Joey Labas. Is he the guy, as you mentioned? But so let's get to this, Kenny. Foot meets the ball next Saturday. Everybody's excited. September 3rd, Kinnick Stadium. I'm going to do it to you. I'm going to jump ahead to Iowa State. Not that I'm glossing over week one, although I just did. We're going to go to Iowa State. You got Ohio State on the schedule, at Ohio, at Columbus, Michigan coming to Kinnick, Wisconsin. There's a lot going on here in the Big Ten this year and in the regular season or the non-Big Ten season for the Hawks. How's this season project out to you?
I think that there's a very real possibility that you're looking at a better roster, worse record scenario than last year. Just because last year, when you put it, last year when you look at their cross-divisional opponents, Indiana and Maryland, this year you're replacing them with Ohio State and Michigan, the two powerhouses of the conference. I feel like 9 wins is what feels right to me. I feel like 9 wins can win the division. I think that will come down to the Wisconsin matchup that will ultimately be the tiebreaker between those two teams. I feel like they're the best in the Big Ten West. So I feel like when it's all said and done, they'll be at 9-3 at the end of the year, which is way higher than what nationally they're projected. I believe this over-under for them is 7.5, which I feel like is just too low for this team. So 9-win feels comfortable to me, and I think it will win the division, but will it be Iowa, Wisconsin? I'm not sure yet. I'm going to have to watch the first 9-10 weeks whenever they play, and then I'll make my decision then.
I like the way you're headed. I just said to James Morris, too. Yeah, Vegas said 7.5 wins. I'll take your 9 wins. That's what I'm thinking, 8-4, 9-3. I'll take more, obviously. But I think realistically, when you look at it, as you mentioned, with talent and competition, another tough year. That still puts them in a New Year's Day Bowl or around a New Year's Day Bowl. Nice payout. But I agree with you. I think talent is there. Now it's just going to be a lot of breaks, as you know, staying healthy. So not a lot of breaks in that case, but a lot of breaks going your way, as you know. Kenny can't even begin to say thank you enough. He's Kenny Smith, and again, he's with the Des Moines Register, USA Today, Iowa Hawkeye beat writer. Kenny can't even say, again, thank you enough. All his information at the bottom of the screen along with mine. Be sure to check Kenny's stuff out. Great job of covering the Hawkeyes. His coverage is fantastic. So, Kenny,
thank you.
Great seeing you again. Thank you so much. For Kenny Smith, I'm Dave O'Hara. Thanks also to James Morris, Craig and Stacy Schroeder from Fight with Flash Foundation, and my good buddy Michael Merrick for getting this production on the Air Force, and to you, the viewers, of course, as always, as well. So for the Hawkeye, I'm Dave O'Hara. That's all for me. Thanks, all of you.